Good afternoon and welcome to NTA Channel 5 Abuja News at 1. I am Frama Pani, and of course the news is coming to you live from NTA Channel 5, but a little bit behind schedule as we had an outside live broadcast, the coronation and staff handover to the new Olubadan of Ibadan land. We begin the news with the agricultural sector. We begin by telling you that the FCT Agricultural and Rural Development Secretariat has kickstarted the process of renovating all dilapidated agro-services centers, warehouses, abattoirs and veterinary clinics. The Secretary, Abubakar Ibrahim, who disclosed this, says will boost agriculture in the nation's capital. Miriam George Jutubo has details.
Infrastructure like abattoirs are suffering in the Federal Capital Territory due to long usage, as some were erected more than 20 years ago. The Secretary, Agriculture and Rural Development Secretariat, Abubakar Ibrahim, noted that since the inception of the territory, only 4 abattoirs are operating, and as the number of residents keep increasing, most facilities in the FCT are overstretched and can no longer serve their purposes.
Our abattoirs are going on serious renovation. If you go to Yenya and Karu abattoir, you see that we are evacuating all the waste. The last time they evacuated waste in those 2 places is since 2019. So it's something that I'm proud to say.
The Secretary added that with the support of the private sectors and other non-governmental organizations, the target of the FCTA in ensuring food security will be achieved.
My idea here is based on the reality that government alone cannot solve the problem of agriculture. That's why I intend to operate an open door policy that will encourage the participation of the well-meaning organization. In this direction, I intend to strengthen the synergy with research institutes such as IITA and other reputable individuals to train our farmers as well as our agri-extension agents.
Abubakar Ibrahim revealed that the Secretariat received approval for the revival of the tractor hiring scheme, which will help the rural farmers. Mariam George, Jitubo, NTA News.
Strengthening traditional justice system of FCT original inhabitants to combat sexual and gender-based violence was the focus of one-day capacity training for traditional rulers in the FCT. Hawagimba reports that the training was organized by Abiodun Esset Initiative for Girls. The report.
Seated here are original inhabitants, traditional rulers across the 6 area council of the FCT to deliberate on the best ways to combat sexual and gender-based violence in their communities. Chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council, Abdullah Adamu Candido, helped on the need for traditional institutions to encourage rural women to know their right to speak up and not to be intimidated by their male folk.
The traditional ruler have a way of handling matters even without any recourse to any punishment. So if you strengthen their capacity, I believe that we'll be able to have a reduction even in our facilities. If you approach and use the capacity of traditional rulers more, I'm convinced that we'll have a reduction in the number of inmates in our prison.
We are believing that we are going to be well informed on how best to handle anything that has to deal negatively with the female gender.
If not totally eradicating this violence, at least mitigate them and to keep persons off from committing the violence.
For the founder, Abiodun Esiet Initiatives for Girls, Mrs. Abiodun says the capacity training is aimed at building their minds towards understanding the laws that covers issues related to sexual and gender-based violence in their community.
First, we have recognized that as a major way of reducing sexual and gender-based violence, but also to strengthen their capacity in the right way so that they know how to address issues around sexual and gender-based violence, giving confidentiality where confidentiality needs to be promoted.
The project, which is an advocacy fight against sexual and gender-based violence, particularly at the grassroots, the founder says will run for 2 years. Hawagimba, NTA News.
Now, figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, as at 10th March 2022, indicates one new case of COVID-19 in the FCT. The number of confirmed cases stands at 28,502, while active cases now 134, and number of discharge cases stands at 28,120, and 248 deaths have been recorded in the Federal Capital Territory. Now let's join Ifeanyi Ezumba for business news.
Hello and welcome to Business News. I am Ifeanyi Ezumba. Let's begin with federal government ban on foreigners from purchasing agricultural commodities. The Federal Executive Council has approved a memo banning foreigners or their agents from purchasing agricultural commodities at farm gates across the country. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Niyi Adebayo stated this when he briefed State House correspondents on the outcome of the council meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on Wednesday in Abuja. He said the approval was necessitated by the need for government to establish an appropriate mechanism that will protect local farmers in terms of achieving the right prices of their goods and commodities. Adebayo also noted that the approval was also meant to ensure that the farmers have the appropriate incentives and the needed encouragement in the farming business while seeking promotion of agribusiness in Nigeria through right farm gate pricing, as only licensed local buying agents who must register by the relevant National Commodity Association will be able to buy goods directly from the farmers and sell to foreigners. Marketers in the aviation industry say price of aviation fuel, which rose by 345% from 450 to 580 per litre, is likely to hit 700 naira by next week.
The National Operations Controller Independent Petroleum Marketers Association, Mike Osatoyi, says the Russian-Ukraine war and other related factors may fuel further increase in the price of aviation fuel and other petroleum products. Aviation fuel known as Jet A1, which was sold for 190 naira per litre, skyrocketed to 360 naira in January and further rose to 579 naira as at first week of February, and as at this week Tuesday for 607 naira. This, however, came with the scarcity of the product, which has virtually forced all air carriers to reschedule flights, while others who could not get the Jet A1 to cancelled flights. Deborah Gazaj-Michael reporting for Business News.
The price of crude oil rose by 4% this week, even as the United States President Joe Biden banned Russian oil imports. Likewise, the United Kingdom says it will phase out from buying Russian oil by end of the year. Deborah Gazaj-Michael reports.
These decisions by the US and UK is expected to further disrupt the global energy market, where Russia is the second largest exporter of crude, as both benchmarks have surged more than 3% since Vladimir Putin announced his special military operation in Ukraine, which has led the United States and other countries to impose economic sanctions on Russia. Key players in the oil and gas sector say before this imposition, gas exports were already being shunned by private organizations. Russia accounts for 7 million to 8 million barrels per day, which represents 7% of the global supply. Deborah Gazaj-Michael reporting for Business News.
Now to our local news. POS transaction is the new banking format in the financial sector as bank customers redirect attention into the less costly venture widely considered low risk by operators. From Apanyi in this report examines this prospect.
Data from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System shows about 307,000 POS machines are in circulation across the country as of March 2021, with 167,000 reported active. POS terminal is now being used as alternative to banking halls, and as banks step down on their penetration rate, slow down establishment of branches, and instead position banking agents in several places. But how effective is the new innovation for business?
It all depends. Most times we make up to 10,000 in a day. Yeah. And most times there's no market, we make like 6,000-7,000.
POS is even better than the one that I'm doing before, based on the profit that we make on it.
POS operators have been able to decentralize the banking system, increasing the financial inclusion rate of regulator while also paying commission.
That's business news for this week. Up next is Sports Brief. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Ifeanyi. And on the sporting scene, Super Eagles stars named in Europa League Best 11 as Brum leads Nigeria's contingent to World Athletic Indoors in Belgrade. And UK government stops Abramovich from selling Chelsea. Let's join Hakimat Aliyu for details on Sports Brief.
Joe Aribo and Leon Balogun have been named in the Europa League Best 11 by Football Statistics website WhoScored after their outstanding performance in last night's 3-0 rout of Red Star Belgrade. In another development, attempts by Russia billionaire Roman Abramovich to sell Chelsea has been halted by the UK government. Abramovich had put up the European champions for sale in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and threats of sanctions were speculated. The UK government has ruled that Abramovich cannot sell the club. From the world of athletics, Tokyo long jump bronze medalist Ese Brume and 5 other athletes will fly Nigeria's flag in this year's World Athletics Indoor Championship holding in Belgrade, Serbia. The Belgrade 2022 World Championship Indoors will hold from March 18 to 20. Nigeria will contest in 3 events, including women's long jump, triple jump, and 4x4 relay for men. With Sports Brief, Hakimat Aliu, NTA News.
That concludes the news.